It was around December. The snowstorms were starting to come, and it was cold as fuck. Me and my wife were trying to get everything we could before the winter started. Food, supplies, etc. The problem was, however, is that we don't have a car. We didn't have the money for it. I worked at a low-wage job in a shitty old apartment with rent pretty decent. My wife usually stayed home and took care of our 2-month-old. Secretly, I had been saving money in order to get a car, and finally, I had enough. I came home to my wife and told her that we had money for a car. She was relieved. The next day, we went to the local car shop. The prices were pretty low. The cars weren't the greatest, but if it got me and my wife a car, then we'll be happy. So, we did everything we needed, signed paperwork, paid, got the keys, and drove off. The car was used, from 1984, and was pretty run down. We decided to get repairs later. 6 months later, we were cleaning out the car, when I noticed something odd under the back seat. I hadn't seen it before, despite checking the car multiple times. I looked closer, but I needed a flashlight to see it. It looked like a black block, and thought it was just something the previous owner had left behind. Over the days though, the suspense was killing me. I was so curious to know what it was. It sounded ridiculous, but trust me, I wanted to know. I hadn't told anybody about it yet. Finally, 2 days after, I pulled it out of the car. It was a VHS tape marked Happy Memories. It looked to be from around the same age as the car. I didn't know what to do with it. I just thought it was some old home video from the previous owner. Although, it did look pretty strange. While I didn't want it to invade privacy, I decided to see what was on the tape to kill off my curiosity. I went up to my attic and found my old VHS player. It hadn't been used since I was in high school, when I would throw parties and use the VHS player for playing movies and watching them with my buddies. It was dusty, a little bit rusty, but it still worked. I turned it on and put in the tape. It started pretty normal, a family during Christmas, people walking around, you know, average. Then shit got weird. A couple started to fight while children were crying in the background. It got more and more utterly disturbing as it went on. Eventually, I hit a part. One that didn't make me sleep for weeks. I would never get this out of my head. It was a dark room, completely brick, but with soundproof walls. There were torture weapons everywhere. There were mutilated bodies everywhere. The same wife and children who were in the previous video were now being tortured, even murdered. All of them were screaming and begging for it all to end. So the torturer did. He cut them open, stabbed them in the face, gouged their eyeballs, and threw them in a jar. The things he said after that is one that won't stop repeating in my head. I guess this is a happy memory for someone like me. I took the tape out and laid it on the floor for what seemed like hours. The images of the bodies and the family being tortured, it traumatized me. It was hours before I even said one single word. After 7 hours, I finally called the police and explained what happened and what I found. After weeks of investigation, they had found out that this was a tape of a family who had gone missing 32 years ago. They also handed me a newspaper article saying, "Local family disappears, husband nowhere to be found." They had given me the place of where the house was located and said it had been demolished in 2003, but they built a car ownership place over it. The same fucking place I got the car. I'm taking therapy every week for 2 hours. I can't bear the thoughts of the fact that the same place where people were murdered was the same car place I went to. But then, it hit me. When I went to the car place, there was only 2 cars. Each was from the 80s. The car salesman looked like the killer. I had seen in the tape. Now that I think of it, he was rushing us so we could get out of there. I went back to confront him, but the shop was closed permanently. I've burned the VHS in hope of nobody having to witness such horror ever again.